The problem for most people, it has been my experience, is that they have been raised to believe in what they can't do. And it's a very simple prospect to change that, yet most people never do. And it's one of the reasons why people are not very good at attracting into their life what they would like to have, whatever it might be, at any level. And I'm talking about from the very highest levels of miracles and healings and attracting abundance into your life to getting a job, to having relationships, the right person show up in your life. Anything that you can put your thoughts on or your attention on. I suggest the reason that people don't get the things that they would like to have in their life is because of that very simple principle that they are putting their thoughts or their attention or their energy on what they can't have or what's impossible. And it's a very simple paradigm for me. In the scriptures, there's a line that says, as a man thinketh, so is he. As we think, so shall we be. What we think about is what we become, and so on. It's endless. Emerson's notion that the ancestor to every action is a thought, that everything began with a thought. And it's true of everything that you can think of in your life. Just look at what you're wearing on your feet right now. Somebody had to think about those shoes. Look at the chair that you're sitting on. Just wherever you are, just gaze around and realize that it all started with an idea, with a thought. As St. Paul put it in the New Testament, that which is seen hath not come from that which doth appear. That is, the source of everything in the world is not in the world itself. It's in something invisible, something imaginary, something that is formless, something that has no boundaries, and that is the world of thought, the world of ideas. And if you can just accept that premise that what you think about is what expands, then if your thoughts are on what you can't do, or if your thoughts are on what you dislike, or if your thoughts are on what always has been, or if your thoughts are on what other people expect of you, and even if you despise all of that, and even if you find a lot of fault with that, and if you're very angry about all of that, about the way things always are, or always have been, rather, or the way things used to be. If your energy and your thoughts are on those things that you dislike, then you will attract more of what you dislike into your life. And it's almost as if it's a law of the universe. And that highly functioning people, one of the things that I learned from one of my great mentors, Abraham Maslow, many, many years ago as a doctoral student, is that when someone comes to you and they're looking for help of any kind, never place more than a few moments' attention on the problem. Because if your thoughts are always on, and what you're talking about is always on what is wrong, and what the problem is, you will become an enabler to that person to continue to manifest more of what is wrong and the problem in their life. And that highly functioning people, self-actualizing people that Maslow called them, were people who didn't think about what is, not even what is. And just notice in your life, as you think about this principle of having a mind that is open to everything, think about how many people you run into every day whose thoughts are on the circumstances of their life, and who talk about the circumstances of their life. This is what's wrong, this is what I don't have, this is something that I can't seem to get right, I keep having the wrong things show up, we don't have any money, we don't have the right friends, I don't like the way my spouse treats me, my children are always this, whatever. It's this endless inventory of things that people's minds are occupied with that are on what is. And if you want to know about self-actualization, you have to learn how to take your thoughts off of what is and onto what you intend to manifest with passion. You have to make that shift so that every time you are having a thought that is based upon the circumstances of your life, what always has been, what used to be, or whatever, you shift it. And you make the picture in your mind shift onto something that you intend to create or manifest into your life. So having a mind that is open to everything and attached to nothing is a mind. This came from a man who wrote back in the 10th century in the dialogues of Tilopa and his discourses. And he was a Vedantic scholar who lived in India over 1,000 years ago. And he suggested then in those discourses that a mind that is open to everything is one that has the potential for attracting everything into its life. And a person who doesn't have a mind that is open to everything will attract exactly what it is that they have their attention on. So one of the things that we have to do to create a mind that is open to everything is to look at what it is that we believe is not possible. And then, if you will, rewrite your agreement with reality. Literally rewrite it. And have it shift.
My sister-in-law, Marilyn, was driving on the Lodge Freeway in Detroit with her husband, my brother, and their 3 children in the back seat. Now, she is a hardcore, linear, left-brain skeptic. I mean, you had to show me. Otherwise, it doesn't exist for her. Medicine was her model. Anything that has to do with the mind, very skeptical. This car jumped the guardrail on the other side, on the southbound lane, and landed right in her face at 60 miles an hour. She saw the wheels coming and land right there. Every bone in her face was broken. Her kidneys were punctured. She had internal bleeding and was in intensive care for 13 weeks. They took her into the hospital unconscious. And no one thought that she was going to survive the night. She was really in bad shape. And they performed surgery on her for 14 hours. And there was a team of surgeons, 6 of them. And they were talking during the surgery. As you can imagine, for 14 hours you would be talking. My sister-in-law reported to me in 1971, when I was 31 years old, and just sort of starting on this path, that she watched the entire surgery. She said, "Wayne, you're the only person, you're the only weird one in the family. All right? And you're weird enough to believe this, you know." So anyway, Marilyn said to me, "Wayne," she said, "what happened is that I left my body." And she said, "I went up to the corner of the room. I was surrounded by this light, and I was in the presence of God." It was like a consciousness. It was like, I can't describe it because it doesn't have boundaries. It didn't have form, but it was a magnificent light. And I was there, and there was this tunnel. And I could have gone through this tunnel, and I had the choice, and it was so peaceful, and it felt so good. It was the most blissful I've ever been in my life. And she said, and I watched the surgeons performing on me, and I watched them working on my body, knowing that that wasn't me. When she came out of it after 14 hours of surgery, there were 2 of the surgeons, they were voting on whether they should continue this or not, or whether they should just pull the plug. She had very little heartbeat at all, and she was so badly punctured internally, and her bleeding was so bad, and there was infection and so on, that they just didn't think she would, and if she did survive, they thought it was. So 2 of them were saying, let's just give up on this, you know, and go on to other people. The 4 doctors prevailed, who said that we really believe that we can save this person. And Marilyn then made it. She had 3 little children, my 2 nephews and 1 niece, were in the backseat. They were just little children at the time, 2, 4, and 5. And Marilyn decided that she could re-enter, even though it was painful and didn't want to do it. She was given, it's like given the choice. And she went back. And when she came out of it, she told the surgeons which ones had said, let's give up on it, and which ones had said, let's stay with it. And she had gave them word for word what they had said in this event. And she said it was at that time that I became really, truly aware. And she said since then, she has gotten to meet some of what they call NDEers, near-death experiences. And that everybody who has this near-death experience, Raymond Moody writes about it, has the same thing to report. And that is that when they come back, and they do it reluctantly, they have what we call the big picture. And since then, I mean, you wouldn't believe my sister-in-law. She is the calmest, most loving, easiest going. You can't get to her. You can't get to her. She has an inner candle flame that never flickers, though the worst goes before her. And the worst is my brother. And he goes before her all the time. And he's very linear. He's an insurance, he's a wonderful, loving, beautiful person. All of his stuff is motivated out of caring and concern. He wants to always, but he wants to do so damn much that it becomes like, all right, enough, I got the map. All right, yeah, but do you know which turn to make? Yeah, I know. And it's half an hour of that kind of. And she just sits there and just reads. And when there's a family squabble and people get themselves all upset, she just picks up a book and just excuses herself. And she goes over into the corner, and the kids say, you know, when someone will be around, their friends, they say, what's with your mom? And they all say, oh, she's got the big picture. It's like having the big picture. And these people, all of them report when they come back from that, they have this like near-death experience. It's like tension and stress and anxiety and fear and all of that stuff that occupies so much of our lives is just gone. It's just not a part of the consciousness any longer. My suggestion is that we don't have to have that kind of traumatic event happen to our form to understand the universal principles and to surrender to them and to make them work every day in our life. That we don't have to go there. That we can unmuddle all of this metaphysical psychobabble, jargons kind of stuff and begin to live the spiritual life and have the understanding that we are truly spiritual beings having a human experience, and that the quality of that human experience is only available to us through our thoughts, through our mind, through our divine connection. And that whatever your religious belief, whatever label you place on yourself, try not to think of yourself as Christian. Try to be Christ-like, and you'll know what I'm talking about. Try not to think of yourself as Jewish, but be Jehovah-like, or Buddha-like, or Mohammed-like. These were not people who were asking anyone to deify idols and wooden deities and an orthodoxy. But instead we're talking about kindness and love and forgiveness and gentleness and spirit, and that we're all connected, and you begin to live that way. And it's really quite an easy thing to do.
How will you experience your physical life when you have met this challenge of facing inward and living by the directives of your spiritual self? You will still chop wood and carry water, as the ancient Zen proverb tells us. You will not suddenly develop totally new talents or interests. However, you will have a level of awareness that lets you see things that have been hidden. Here are some of the insights that will give you a sense of peace and inner fulfillment. You will experience and enhance the meaningfulness of coincidences. You will become aware that there are no accidents in this intelligent system. You realize that everything that shows up in your life has something to teach you. You appreciate everyone and everything in your life. You are unable to entertain any doubts about the universal source of energy. You know that all beings are a part of it and receive sustenance from it. You are convinced that all weakness and falsehood come from a refusal to know this. You will feel loved. You will call for and accept divine guidance. This vital spiritual nourishment is felt in both your inner and outer experiences. Immobilizing fear diminishes as you feel the presence of the divine energy within you. All seems as it should be, even though you may not understand it. Your desires to right wrongs and fix the broken parts of your life are also part of this divine plan. You pursue your desires to serve God and humanity with clarity and peace. By focusing your inner energy on the beauty that surrounds you, you will receive that energy from your surroundings. With practice, this kind of receptiveness will become a source of strength and sustenance in your daily life. You will sense that anything that is destructive to one human is destructive to all. This higher awareness will lead you to the conclusion that Mahatma Gandhi came to, that God has no religion. That awareness will give you a loving energy that will help to bring all of us together. You will make a new agreement with reality. When your soul becomes the guiding force in your life, you will break the ordinary agreement with reality intellectually and physically. Your level of awareness will shift so dramatically that you will no longer feel bound by the agreement that defines reality for most others. You will experience surrender and acceptance. You will finally stop fighting and simply let go. You will accept that God knows what she is doing. This surrendering process will make you more effective in your sacred quest. You will become a waking dreamer. Everything that you are capable of achieving while dreaming will be possible while awake. The power of your mind to manifest what previously could only occur in sleeping dreams will begin to be your awakened reality. Some people take a lifetime to learn how to become a waking dreamer, to literally be in a dream state while awake. With your heightened awareness and the guidance of your higher self, you will become one of those waking dreamers. You will know the power and ecstasy of silence. As Herman Melville wrote, "Silence is the only voice of our God. All profound things and emotions of things are preceded and attended by silence." You will know that there is a spiritual solution to every problem. Problems such as addictions to drugs, foods, and alcohol have solutions in your higher self. By going within, you will see your excessive desires for something outside of yourself as an inadequate refuge for worldly pain. When you begin to achieve the highest levels of pleasure and euphoria by facing inward, the desire and the need for externals will simply disappear. Every problem, be it with relationships, finances, health, or self-image, has a solution in the sacred self. When you are peaceful, experience silence, meditate, and listen, really listen to God, you will be directed away from the worldly and toward the divinity that is within you. You will know what you need to do. You will shift from acquiring to sharing. You will desire less and yet feel more fulfilled. You will shift your attention away from yourself and take pleasure in serving others. You will live authentically. You will accept yourself, knowing that whatever behaviors you exhibited in the past, even the ones that may have been destructive and immoral, were a part of who you were at the time, and they had great lessons built into them for you to transcend. You will be able to say with conviction, "I am what I am." While some of the people who are close to you may find this difficult to accept, you will no longer be able to compromise yourself. You will be less judgmental and more forgiving. You will begin seeing that judging others does not define them, it defines you. Consequently, you will be less inclined to judge anyone or anything. You will also begin to forgive yourself. You will see mistakes as lessons for you to transcend. This will free you from the tyranny of self-recrimination. You have made the decision to be free.
Blaise Pascal, the very famous French philosopher and scientist, 17th century. He said, "All of man's troubles stem from his inability to sit quietly in a room alone." You will not ever get to know God unless you can get to the field of all possibilities. As St. Mark put it, with God all things are possible. Now that leaves nothing out. And the way that you do that is you go through the layers of your mind, from the surface, where the chatter is, to just below the surface, where the analyzing is, the intellectual violence, where you have to pick and tear everything apart, figure it all out. Lower to synthesis, where you see how all things are brought and held together. Lower to where you quiet the mind. And ultimately, coming to rest in the field of all possibilities, the limitless field. And here, in this place of rest, where you empty the mind of all thoughts, between your thoughts, through the process of meditation or getting quiet or chanting or prayer or whatever you want to call that activity of sitting quietly alone, twice a day at least, for 30 minutes, you will come to know God. You will find in that field of all possibilities that nothing at all is impossible. Nothing. This is the place where Jesus performed his miracles. This is the place where a Sai Baba can manifest the gift of fish and loaves. And once the people say to him, "How can you do that? How can you just manifest?" I don't know. He said, "How can you not? He is just there." Just like looking at a pond and seeing that the essence of a pond is not the surface, where all the disturbances are, but below, where you get below the disturbances. In the mind, the surface is the chatter, the endless repetition of thoughts. And you know what that is? just an endless repetition of the inventory of beliefs that have been handed to you by other people, and all of your opinions about them. When you get past those, you get to that peaceful place, that knowing. And after you get good at getting quiet and craving it, you will begin to see that not only is it meditation as a peaceful, beautiful, powerful experience, but what you bring back from the meditation is even more significant. And what you bring back is a solution of finding the key where you dropped it. What you bring back from that experience is a sense of peace and bliss and love and tolerance and kindness. All of the characteristics of your higher self, of your sacred self. As you tame your ego, you no longer have the possibility of being offended. You have made the decision to be free. And being able to work on those, one moment, one present moment at a time, will bring you to an understanding of what Robert Frost said in his poetry. He said, we all sit around in a ring and suppose, while the secret sits in the center and knows. And the secret that sits in the center and knows is really invisible, surrounded by form. In Zen they say it's the space between the bars that holds the tiger. It's the silence between the notes that makes the music. It's not the note, it's the silence between. What allows a vase to be a vase is not the form, it's not the material, it's the space inside. If you hit and break it, the vase, all the material is still there, no vase. You have to have the space surrounded by form. That's who you are, space. Inner, divine, empty, quiet, formless, eternal space, surrounded by a garage where you park your soul. In Sailing to Byzantium, William Butler Yeats put it this way. He said, an aged man is but a paltry thing, a tattered coat upon a stick, unless soul clap its hands and sing, and louder sing, for every tatter in its mortal dress. Without that soul, without that divine, silent, empty, invisible, formless, eternal space within us, we're just tattered coats on a stick. Go within. Banish the doubt. Witness it. Get rid of all the labels. And know that you are here for one purpose and one purpose only. To find and serve God. And when you do, you will understand what the Quakers would say at every single Sunday morning service. They said, the service begins. I had a client. His name was Lou Mastriani. He was a client of mine up in New York. And he came to me for 6-7 weeks of therapy. And we worked together. And after that, I just figured it was over. I was what I call a do-do therapist. You know, you got to go out there and do it now. You can't just sit here and talk about your mother. I'm just not interested. It's just boring. You know, I got enough of that. I got enough problems with my own mother. I don't want to hear about yours, you know. But if you want to change, then here's what we do. And Lou wanted to sort of talk, and then we got to a point where he knew that it was time to go. These are the things that you've come for, and now you can change and work on them. And he was one of these people who was never happy. He didn't understand the great messages, the great understanding that happiness itself is the way to live life. It isn't something that you're going to ever get. It's something that you bring to life, that success is an inner process. It's something you bring to life. It's not something you get from life. And so in the last day, I told them, I said, Lou, I said, you've always talked to me about how great it was when you were a little boy living out in Sag Harbor, and how much you loved to go out to the beach, and you spend your days at the beach, and those were the greatest things. I said, I'm going to give you 4 prescriptions. And these 4 prescriptions I give you, you have to follow them to the T. He said, all right, Wayne, I'll do whatever you want. He always knew I was a little on the loony side.
And Lou was sort of, we became buddies. And so I said, you're going to go out I'm going to send you out next Wednesday instead of coming here. You're going to take the day off. He had a furniture business. I said, you're going to close up your business for the day, and you're going out to the beach, and I'm going to give you 4 prescriptions. And the first prescription you're going to open at 9 o'clock in the morning when you get there. The second one you open at noon. The third one at 3, and the last one at 6 o'clock. Will you do it? He said, yeah. I got this from Norman Vincent Peale, who had told me this was a great technique for people who are sort of into that type A stuff and always in a hurry and never wanting to be happy but always wanting to talk about it. So I gave Lou these 4 envelopes, and I sealed them, and I wrote this in. And he went out he was ready for his day at the beach. He hadn't done it since he was 9 years old. And he opened up the first envelope at 9 o'clock in the morning. And I had written in the envelope inside, I'd written the word, listen. That's all. And for 3 hours, he had to walk up and down the beach and just listen. Just listen to the birds, to the ocean, to the wind, to all the beautiful things that the beach has to offer. Just be there in the moment. And he did that for 3 hours. And then at noon, he got to the second envelope, and I had written in there, reach back. And then there was a poem that I had put on there by James Kavanaugh, which I have in my parenting book on raising kids. It's called Little Boy, I Miss You. God, you guys could listen to this. James Kavanaugh wrote it on his 45th birthday, the day his brother died, who was only a year older than him. Some kind of nervous, crazy disorder. Goes like this. Little boy, I miss you. With your sudden smile and your ignorance of pain, you walked through life and devoured it, with nothing but misty goals to keep you company. You wandered through quiet woods with friends, and you were startled by a shuffling porcupine. Your heart beat mightily when you chased frogs and caught one too big for a single hand. There was no time for meaning. A marshmallow gave it on a sharpened stick. A jackknife in your pocket gave you comfort when your friends were gone. A flower hidden in the woods behind an aging, shriveled log. A dog who licked at your fingers and chewed at your jeans. A game of football that you didn't expect. A glass of cider. A cricket's cry. When did you lose your eyes and ears? When did taste buds cease to tremble? When's this sullenness, this mounting fear, this quarrel with life, demanding meaning? That mounting fear is leisure's bonus, and it's the pain that forbids you to be a boy, be a girl. I had Lou think about that for 3 hours. Reach back, and don't let an old person move in. Don't let a tired person move in. Don't let a sick person move in. Not into this beautiful form that you inherited. And at 3 o'clock, I had written on there, as he opened the envelope, re-examine your priorities, which I'd encourage all of you to do. Who are the most important people in your life? Who are they? What would you do if you had 6 months to live and you knew it? How would you spend that time? Who would you be with? You got kids and you don't have time for them because you're too busy? Be with those kids. Teach them how to play ball. You're not raising grass, you're raising kids. Be there for your wife. Tell her how much you love her. Send love out wherever you can, and you'll see the success that you're chasing so desperately come jumping into your life. Re-examine your priorities. Walk as you talk. Be there for the people you love, and you'll see your business and everything else growing. And at 6 o'clock, I had Lou write the final envelope, and I'd encourage all of you to do it. I said, Lou, now write your worries in the sand and see how long they stay there.
Here's how it works. A person who is below 200 is someone who is moving against, who has to have an enemy, is someone who drains power, is always looking for energy from someone else, is trying to take it away from you. This is someone who needs to argue. This is someone who needs to prove a point. This is someone who needs to make you feel worse about yourself. And generally when you're in the energy field of someone below 200, when they leave your energy space, when they leave the field that you are in them with them, you feel worse about yourself. You feel drained for having been in their experience. You feel weakened, and you feel as if you need to get away from that because they are drainers of energy. They take, and they need to confront, and they need to have an argument. Now, the difference is that a person above 200, particularly in the 300 and 400 range, is a person who never drains, but instead is someone who supplies energy. And when you're in the energy field of someone like this, they make you feel better about yourself. You not only feel better about yourself, but for having been in the presence of that person, you feel energized rather than having been depleted of your energy. Do you see the difference? You feel as if you can do things. You feel as if there's nothing that can stop you. You feel as if you've been awakened. You feel as if everything is going to work. And you have a sense of faith and a sense of beauty and a sense of knowing that there's goodness in the world. But mostly you have a good feeling about yourself. And it's all because of being in the energy field of someone who calibrates to a higher frequency. They don't take, they give. They don't argue, they supply. They don't want from you, they offer you. People will say to me over and over and over again, I understand what you're saying. It makes a lot of sense. And I, of course, am operating at a much higher level than all of those people around me. And the people who really need to hear this message are not here today. They're back home watching a football game or whatever it is that they're doing. But they obviously wouldn't even come to this because I'm at such a much higher spiritual level. But I'm in the energy field of people who are always bringing me down. They're cruel, they're nasty, they're inconsiderate, they're not compassionate, they're vicious, they're hateful, they're any number of things that I don't want or can't tolerate in my life. And they bring me down. You've heard it, you've said it. They bring me down. My husband doesn't understand me. My boss doesn't get it. The people around me don't get it. It's a lousy, hateful world out there. There's a lot of people out there who are mean. There are a lot of people who are represented by those people that we quote call our enemies and so on. And I'm in that energy field and I can't help but being brought down. And I always ask myself, and I respond to that with imagine how Jesus would respond to such an observation. Like, I don't want to be over there with all of those thieves. You know, I can't go over there. I just can't be around them because they just bring me down. And you laugh because it's too absurd. Those prostitutes over there, they're just filthy. Those are just people that, they bring me down, so I stay away from them. I don't want to be around them. That wasn't his way. And I suggest to you that the reason that people with lower energies bring you down is not because it is them that are bringing you down, but it is because you join them in responding to them with the same energy that you despise. So if someone hates you, and you hate them for hating you, you have responded to force with a counterforce. Anything above 200 is power. It's empowerment. Anything below 200 is force. If you get angry at somebody for being angry at you, if you get upset with somebody who is upsetting, if you get hateful towards someone who is acting hateful towards you, in your thoughts or in your actions, that is what it is that is bringing you down. But if you learn something else, something that St. Francis taught us in this prayer of St. Francis, this prayer isn't just a Catholic prayer. The prayer of Francesco is an 800-year-old technology for spiritual problem solving. Indeed, there is a spiritual solution to every problem. Most of us are sort of living what Jesus talked about when he said to be in the world, but not of the world. And so all of us here in this room know in our hearts that we are on a path that can't be stopped. And it's a very powerful force within us. And it motivates us not only to come to things like this, but to behave in new ways and to break out of old paradigms. We also know that there is something more to this life that we are here experiencing other than just being a part of the system, and we are going to have a deeper, richer experience of life. And so, knowing that there is a deeper and a richer experience of life available to us fringe dwellers who are sort of in the world, but we're not of the world, we know this is not home. This is not our home. We know it. We know that we are not human beings having a spiritual experience, but that it's the other way around. That we are all spiritual beings having a human experience. We know this. And my experience with the teachers that I have had and with my own meditative practices and with my own reading is that we sign up for all of this and that there are no accidents. That God's plan works and yours doesn't, by and large. And if you want yours to work, make it the same as God's and understand that. And that when you are in nowhere, you make a decision to come here. And you pick who you're coming here with. And so if you don't like who you got, you ought to be wondering why you picked them. And when you left nowhere, and we all leave nowhere, N-O-W-H-E-R-E, and we get to now here, N-O-W-H-E-R-E, and it's all the same. It's just a question of spacing. So we go from nowhere to now here. And guess where you're headed? Back to nowhere. And you know that. Because you have been watching the journey, haven't you? Because whoever you are has been in a whole lot of bodies already. In fact, even how you got here from nowhere to now here is exactly the same for all of us. Like it or not, you all started out the same. You went on a picnic with your father, you came home with your mother. That's the way it gets. Okay? I don't care if you're a nun, I don't care if you're the Pope, I don't care who you are. There was a picnic. And now you show up in now here, and you show up in a room. And the room is this reality that you are experiencing, and we call it daily awareness. And you show up in this house, this beautiful house, in this little room called daily awareness. And the only way you can get into the house is through your birth. And you squeeze into this room, okay? And you spend your time here, whatever time that you have signed up for. Some of us for 10 weeks, some of us for 10 years, some of us for 100 years, and it's all in divine order, even though we milk this melodrama of death to death, somehow believing that it shouldn't be happening, and isn't it awful, and and we don't even believe in it anymore, and that's the ego. The ego's greatest disappointment and embarrassment is death, all right? And it does everything that it possibly can to avoid the embarrassment of dying. It will even stick tubes in you and feed you through funny little things, all of, whatever. And God's saying, why don't you come home now? I say, well, they won't get these damn tubes out of me, and they've got this.
And so we milk this and milk this and milk this and don't understand that it's in divine order. It's all in divine order. And then you leave the room at your death, and the door snaps shut. And you live your life here in this room called daily awareness. And I would like to suggest to you that all the rest of the house is something called higher awareness. And very few people know how to get out of this room of daily awareness. They don't get out of it because they are looking around and looking around for the door. And they spend their life trying to find the door out. And they're pushing and they're pushing and they're pushing. And then one day they have this stunning realization. And the realization is that the door to the other room opens inward. Inward. It doesn't open out. You can't push it out. You got to step back and let it in. You can't read about it. You can't have somebody else tell you about it. It's like the difference between knowing about God and knowing God. A lot of us know about God from what we've had handed to us through the various paradigms that we have bought into in our lives. Very few of us know God directly, have a direct knowing of the experience of saying, I now know. Like it says in A Course in Miracles, if you knew, it doesn't say if you believed, it says if you knew who walked beside you at all times on this path that you have chosen, you could never experience fear again. And when my teacher said, go out into the night, go knowing that you're not alone.
It can be difficult to finally just lighten up and understand that life is what happens while you're making other plans. This is it. Each and every instant of your life takes place in the present moment. Using your present moments to chase after future moments is an ego-based activity. When you are finally able to say that you have arrived, you will know what it feels like to be free. Your higher self does not want you to be lazy or without purpose, but to realize the power in knowing that you have arrived. When you know that this moment is your entire life, you are not focused on past or future moments, and you release the stress and tension that accompany the striving lifestyle. With that release, you become more productive and peaceful than you were when you looked behind or ahead of yourself and did not allow your mind to rest in the still center of the present moment. Being fully in the now means that you will experience heaven on earth because you are completely absorbed in the soul of the holy instant. To experience the bliss of knowing that you are here now in this moment, and that is all there needs to be, all there ever was, and all you will ever know, you must learn to trust your higher self and let go of those ingrained teachings from all the egos that have influenced your life up until now. You will begin to realize that you are not on trial in the now here. You will soon realize that your mission is to serve and extend the love that is your basic essence, period. You don't have to do more, even though you may choose to do a great deal. Your overriding objective is to stay focused on sending and receiving agape, the love of God. If you incorporate the following ideas into the practice of your daily mission, you will succeed in your objective. Nothingness. Nothingness has a very positive value in your life. It is out of nothing that all is created. Space is considered to be nothing, no particles, no form, so we describe it as nothing. To fear this empty space, or to deny its value as a part of us, means doubting our own existence. We came from nothingness, the nowhere I've described throughout this tape, to this world of form, the now here. Surrender. To understand the concept of surrendering, you will not be able to rely on your ego. Ego never wants you to even consider surrendering. It would much rather you hang on to the belief that you must strive and cling to the familiar way. The notion of being attached to what happened to you in the past can be very deeply ingrained in you by your false self. You must learn to recognize ego's attachment to the past when it uses this to keep you stuck in striving. Surrender the belief that your past is what is driving your present. Surrendering also means learning to recognize the signals from your higher self that something within you needs to be witnessed. This means surrendering to whatever is in the present moments of your life. For many people, it can be confusing to discern whether it is ego or spirit that is at the helm. I find that using the image of a boat moving along the surface of a lake is helpful in making the distinction between ego and higher self. I visualize the wake of the boat as a symbol of the past, The wake is not driving the boat, it is merely the trail that is being left behind by the present moment movements of my boat image. What drives the boat is the energy generated in the now. I do not credit or blame the past for the boat's present state of arriving in this spot on the lake. That past cannot drive you in this now, and that past needn't be held responsible for the boat's problems. Practice surrendering by creating a new agreement with now. Agree to know that your past is a trail of present moments that are all left behind, and at the same time, know that if you are having difficulty in this present moment, you will surrender to that reality. Surrendering invites your loving presence to be available in every now moment. What a pleasure each moment can then be, even the last moment. Acceptance. Once when I was asked to define enlightenment, the best I could come up with was the quiet acceptance of what is. I believe that truly enlightened beings are those who refuse to allow themselves to be distressed over things that simply are the way they are. To arrive rather than to strive means applying the wisdom of Reinhold Niebuhr's so-called serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Knowing the difference can be the most difficult part. There is an ancient Zen teaching that says if you understand, things are just as they are. If you do not understand, things are just as they are. This is the essence of acceptance and the way of arriving rather than striving. Bewilderment. Your physical being is an enormous miracle. Its thousands of working parts function with a divine organizing intelligence. Consider your blood circulation, air inhalation, and oxygenation, your eyes, muscles, and bones, all responding to a brain and nervous system that is beyond comprehension. There are miles of arteries and veins, intestines with infinitely tiny microbes, all working in unison with that divine intelligence that creates the body you occupy. To be in a state of bewilderment, stop and behold the wonder of you. Allow yourself to enjoy the bewilderment and awe of who and what you are. There is the miraculous machine that houses you, and there is the incomprehensible mystery of the ghost in the machine that is your mind and soul observing all. Patience. Our loving presence offers us the infinite patience that originates with God. It has taken me over 50 years to know many of the concepts I have talked about on this tape. God has been patient. I have done things in my life that today make me shudder in contempt, yet God somehow stuck it out with me, patiently seeing the potential for something grander. I have stolen and shoplifted in my earlier days, lied all too frequently, been promiscuous and unfaithful, used substances, and through all this and much, much more, God showed me her infinite patience. The stories of the lives of St. Paul and St. Francis of Assisi describe the same kind of patience. This infinite patience is available to you at all moments. Regardless of where you have been, how you have lived, or how much you have relied upon your false self, God's infinite patience is ever present. One of the great teachers in my life was Paramahansa Yogananda, a man who came out of India to teach the ways of the higher self to the people of the West. I've read many of his speeches and have found great comfort in his writings as well as reading about his life. I offer you one of my favorite sayings to ponder as you move toward an awareness of arriving rather than striving. Seek spiritual riches within, he reminds us. What you are is much greater than anyone or anything else you have ever yearned for. That is the voice of your higher self reminding you to quietly accept yourself and turn off the yearning. You are never going to get it all. You are it all already.
Someone just sent me recently a video that said the Steve Jobs top 10 rules for success, and I went through the whole thing. It was about a 40-minute video, and I just started watching it. It was various times that Steve Jobs had been interviewed, and they went through his various success themes. And I think this story just summarizes about all 10 of them. It's called Why Do Ducks Quack and Eagles Fly? Years ago, this is in the Manila paper. Years ago, my friend Harvey McKay told me a wonderful story about a cab driver that proved this point. He was waiting in line for a ride at the airport. When a cab pulled up, the first thing Harvey noticed was that the taxi was polished to a bright shine.
smartly dressed in a white shirt and black tie and freshly pressed black slacks. The cab driver jumped out and rounded the car to open the back passenger door for me. He handed my friend a laminated card and said, "I'm Wally. I'm your driver. While I'm loading your bags in the trunk, I'd like you to read my mission statement." Taken aback, Harvey read the card. It said, "Wally's mission statement. Quote, to get my customers to their destination in the quickest, safest, and cheapest way possible in a friendly environment," unquote. This blew Harvey away, especially when he noticed that the inside of the car matched the outside spotlessly clean. As he slid behind the wheel, Wally said, "Would you like a cup of coffee? I have a thermos of regular and one of decaf." My friend said jokingly, "No, I'd rather prefer a soft drink." Wally smiled and said, "No problem. I have a cooler up here in front with regular and Diet Coke, water, and orange juice." Almost stuttering, Harvey said, "I'll take a Diet Coke." Handing him his drink, Wally said, "If you'd like something to read, I have the Wall Street Journal, I have Time, Sports Illustrated, and USA Today." As they were pulling away, Wally handed my friend another laminated card. "These are the stations I get and the music they play, if you'd like to listen to the radio." As if that weren't enough, Wally told Harvey that he had the air conditioning on and asked if the temperature was comfortable for him. Then he advised Harvey of the best route to his destination for that time of day. He also let him know that he'd be happy to chat and tell him about some of the sights, or, if Harvey preferred, to leave him with his own thoughts. "Tell me, Wally," my amazed friend asked the driver, have you always served customers like this?" Wally smiled into the rearview mirror. "No, not always. In fact, it's only been in the last 2 years. My first 5 years driving, I spent most of my time complaining, like all the rest of the cabbies do. Then I heard this personal growth guru, Wayne Dyer, on the radio one day. He had just written a book called You'll See It When You Believe It. Dyer said that if you get up in the morning expecting to have a bad day, you'll rarely disappoint yourself. He said, "Stop complaining, differentiate yourself from your competition. Don't be a duck, be an eagle. Ducks quack and complain, eagles soar above the crowd." That hit me right between the eyes, said Wally. Dyer was really talking about me. I was always quacking and complaining, so I decided to change my attitude and become an eagle. I looked around at the other cabs and their drivers. The cabs were dirty, the drivers were unfriendly, and the customers were unhappy. So I decided to make some changes. I put in a few more at a time. When my customers responded well, I did more. "I take it that it's paid off for you," Harvey said. "It sure has," Wally replied. "My first year as an eagle, I doubled my income from the previous year. This year, I'll probably quadruple it. You were lucky to get me today. I don't sit at cab stands anymore. My customers call me for appointments on my cell phone or leave a message on my answering machine. If I can't pick them up myself, I get a reliable cabbie friend to do it, and I take a piece of the action." Wally was phenomenal. He was running a limo service out of a yellow cab. I've probably told that story to more than 50 cab drivers over the years, and only 2 took the idea and ran with it. Whenever I go to their cities, I give them a call. The rest of the drivers quacked like ducks and told me all the reasons they couldn't do any of what I was suggesting. Wally, the cab driver, made a different choice. He decided to stop quacking like ducks and start soaring like eagles. No one can make you serve customers well. You make that choice. That's because great service is a choice. And at the end of the story says, "I hope that this story will serve as a motivation not only for our advocates, but also for people to look at things differently and make a choice to succeed in spite of everyday problems in life." Isn't that a great story?
I love that. I'd like to give that to a couple of waiters I've had recently.
Yes.
That weren't very happy to be where they were.
Well, you know, it's applicable to virtually everything. You don't even have to be out there working. It's applicable to how you run your family and how you run your home and how you go shopping. Virtually anything that you do, and including how you keep your own car and your own home and everything else. It's like, if you change the way you look at it, and what he did is he heard this. I used to give this talk called Ducks and Eagles. This goes back many, many years. And I would talk about how eagles soar above the crowd and all of that, and ducks kind of just
quack around and lay on the, always on the ground, and they're always stepping in their own duck shit and and things like that. And eagles just had to soar above all of that, and learning how to be, how to change your attitude towards virtually everything that you do.